CAPAC, as you know, has been led by Congresswoman Judy Chu of California. 2009, Dr. Judy Chu became the first Chinese-American woman ever elected to the U.S. Congress. And in 2011, she was elected chair of CAPAC. And since then, she has worked to strengthen CAPAC's leadership on a broad range of issues, particularly in the immigration debate. And at this time, I'd like to invite CAPAC Chair, Congresswoman Judy Chu, to come up and provide opening remarks. Warm welcome for her, please.
Thank you, Richard. And can we thank Richard Louis for emceeing this event for so many years? Richard, thank you all so very, very much. As chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or CAPAC, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our 2013 Congressional Ceremony for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. For nearly 20 years, CAPAC has fought to ensure that the Asian American and Pacific Islander community has a voice in our nation's capital. The Congress members that were here today are all part of CAPAC. We've built our numbers up so that now we have 41 members that are including those of Asian or Pacific Islander descent or those who represent large Asian and Pacific Islander constituencies. Those members have stepped forward to champion causes that matter to us. So let's give them all another round of applause. Today's event is also being co-sponsored by House Democratic leadership. Later this morning, we will be joined by Chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Xavier Becerra, our Democratic Whip, Steny Hoyer, and of course, our Democratic leader and first woman Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. The theme of this year's ceremony is a path forward on comprehensive immigration reform. And later this morning, we will be hearing from one of the most recognizable Asian American faces on this issue, the Filipino Pulitzer Prize-winning undocumented journalist, Jose Antonio Vargas, and he is truly an inspiration. The time for comprehensive immigration reform is now. In the Senate, the bipartisan Gang of Eight has already unveiled a bill. And in the House, a similar bipartisan working group has been negotiating for months. This is the year to establish a common sense immigration process because families, workers, and businesses can't wait any longer. I was here in 2010 when we were able to get the DREAM Act passed out of the House for the first time in history. I will never forget the tears of joy on the floor of Congress because of the relief we all knew it would provide our young people. But it never passed the Senate, and again, we had to wait. Since then, we've had a presidential election. In 2012, President Obama won with 73% of the Asian American vote and 70% of the Latino vote. The electorate sent a clear message to Washington. We want leadership on immigration reform. And the President and Congress have heard that call. We must do the right thing, the humane thing, and bring 11 million undocumented immigrants out of the shadows and into society. And we will not give up until all those who want to call this country home have a fair and reasonable path to do so. This is the year that we will revitalize the American dream. Now, some people seem to think that immigration is only a Latino issue, but nothing is further from the truth. Our broken immigration system impacts every constituency in this country, and especially Asian Americans. Asians are now the largest group of new immigrants coming to this country every year. Even though Asians make up 6% of the total U.S. population, we make up over 40% of family immigration backlogs. And for some trying to come here from the Philippines, these waiting periods can last as long as 24 years. That's a quarter of a century. Imagine not even being able to see your family for 24 years. That's why we must move ahead on comprehensive immigration reform, and the concerns of Asian American and Pacific Islanders must be addressed in any reform bill. Earlier this year, CAPAC released our 5 central priorities for immigration reform. A copy of this is included in your program booklets. First and foremost, we must provide a roadmap to citizenship for those who are undocumented. Asians make up over 10% of the undocumented population. In my home state of California, Asians account for over 40% of those in the University of California system. And they certainly will qualify for the DREAM Act. In addition, we must have policies that strengthen our economy and workforce, promote integration for new Americans, and establish smarter, more effective enforcement policies that respect the civil liberties of detainees and don't rely on racial or religious profiling. And of course, on top of all of that, we must promote family unity and reduce immigration backlogs. Keeping families together has been a cornerstone of our immigration policy for decades. But now, that simple idea is under assault. Once negotiations were underway, it didn't take long for news to leak that Republicans wanted to cut the number of family-based visas and eliminate entire categories from our current system. They claim that we need to end the right to bring siblings here and stop parents from bringing their children here if their children is married and above the age of 21. They claim that we need to cut these visas to make room for other visas instead. But these claims are ridiculous. Immigration is not a zero-sum game. There is absolutely no reason why we can't have both family-based and work-based visa programs at the same time. In fact, if we're trying to attract the world's best and brightest, many of them want to bring their families too. And think about what these lawmakers are trying to dictate. Who's to say what the most important relationship within a family is? Sister and brother? Parent and child? Every family is different, and no one should have the right to arbitrarily decide which family bonds matter and which do not. Some siblings are closer to each other than they are to their parents. So the notion that lawmakers should tell siblings not to bring each other into this country is absurd. And the same can be said about married adult children. Since when do children become less important to their parents when they get married? If a child deserves to come to the U.S. when they are single, what changes after they've taken their vows? When we heard these issues were being discussed in the Senate, CAPAC immediately took action. We sent a letter signed by 24 lawmakers to each member of the Gang of Eight, urging them to preserve family-based immigration and recognize the importance of these programs to the Asian community. Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii, the first Asian American woman in the U.S. Senate and longtime member of CAPAC, sent her own letter with 6 other senators urging the Senate negotiators to make it easier for families to be reunited through immigration reform. We followed up on these letters by calling every member of the Gang of Eight and spoke with several of the senators directly about our concerns. We met also with Majority Leader Harry Reid to ask for his support in protecting family immigration as the bill moved through the Senate. Through these efforts, we were able to make some significant improvements in the Senate bill, and we have met with the House Working Group to share these same concerns. But we are still a long way from the finish line, and we will need your support to keep families together. America's always valued initiative and responsibility. Immigrant families work hard, pay taxes, buy homes, and start job-creating businesses. As a nation, we benefit when immigrant families come together. After all, families are the best safety net of all time. They help one another, completely independent of government resources. If one gets sick, the other will take care of them. If one loses their job, others will support them. If they are denied conventional loans, they pull their money together to start a business. In fact, immigrants are twice as likely to start businesses in the U.S. than those of native-born, and immigrant businesses have grown at 2.5 times the national average. Jerry Yang, the founder of Yahoo, is a perfect example. He did not come to the U.S. on a high-tech visa. He came on a family visa. His mother brought him from Taiwan to America when he was 10 years old. Despite knowing only one English word at the time, shoe, Yang went on to master the language and thrive in this new home, ultimately founding one of the world's largest internet companies. He created thousands of American jobs and provides a service that allows millions of Americans to be more productive. Rather than restricting pathways for legal immigration or redefining our concept of families, we must make family unity a priority for any immigration reform package. The time for comprehensive immigration reform is now. And if we want the needs of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community to be included, we must make our voices heard. We need your help to move senators and Congress members to action. We need to lift up the stories and voices of families caught up in our broken immigration system. We need a chorus of voices from every corner of the country to cry out that now is the time for immigration reform, a reform that protects families and brings immigrants out of the shadows. Together, we can make this the year that we finally fix our broken immigration system. The time is now. Thank you all very much.